about to go live. Hold on.
Okay. Going live. 5, 4.
We're live.
We'll call this meeting to order. You stand with Jonathan. You lead the word of prayer. Please remain standing. Okay.
Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for all the many blessings that you give us. We thank you for the fact that we live in this country and that we have all the freedoms and rights that we do. Just pray that you'll bless us and help us to guide the people in this city, in this town, and make decisions that are good for their behalf. We pray that you will bless this meeting and help us do those things in Jesus' name.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the
flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
first item is the approval of the minutes of the 15th meeting. Do I hear a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second it.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Hearing none, call for a vote.
Councilman Middlebrooks?
Yes.
Councilman Reed? Yes. Councilman Greathouse?
All right.
Councilman Tucker?
Yes.
Councilman Hill?
All right. The next item is the adoption of the agenda. Do you have any additions or things we need to be moved around?
That item number 1 under the agenda for the public hearing to be postponed until we can remove down the agenda until we can get the system. That's all I have.
All right, do we hear in the agenda to move the national resignation down so we can...
That form of motion.
All right, got a motion. And a second. Any discussion? Your vote.
Councilman Middlebrooks?
Yes.
Councilman Reed? Yes. Councilman Greathouse?
All right.
Councilman Tucker?
Yeah.
Hill?
Yeah.
Next item is oath of office, I guess, for Thompson Police Department.
Good evening. Trying to talk with this difficult little breathing thing on the side. I just wanted to, tonight I want to do the official oath of office for 2 of our newest officers. I want to bring them before council and let our council members meet 2 of our newest officers. Tonight I have Akila Raines has joined the Thomaston Police Force. Miss Akila, and you correct me if I say anything wrong, is born and raised or from Thomaston, grew up here, was a collegiate athlete and left Thomaston, played soccer in college. She ended up worked as a parole and probation officer for a duration of time, and then she and her husband are moving back here to Thomaston. He was in the military and still in, coming back home, so we're glad to have her, and she joined us and went through, graduated, and just joined the force. So we're glad to have Miss Raines with us. And we also have Philip McDonald. Philip McDonald is originally has served about 10 years, a little over 10 years in the Army, in the U.S. Army. He's done a couple tours overseas, still combat medic. So Philip has seen a few his time in the service, but we're glad to have him. He also moved to the Upson area in 2019, and last year, and just also graduated academy. And we're looking forward to having both these officers with training. They've done an excellent job. So with that, I'm going to let the mayor administer your own clause. If you just want to read one.
I'll call your name. Just state your name. I state your name.
Don't be wrong.
Alright. Do solemnly swear or affirm that
I do solemnly swear that
in the Constitution of the United States of America
I will support and defend the Constitution
and the Constitution of the State of Georgia,
and the Constitution of the State of Georgia,
and I will faithfully perform all the duties of my office
and I will faithfully perform the duties of my office,
to the best of my ability and understanding.
abilities and understanding,
And I will faithfully enforce
and I will faithfully enforce
the laws of the State of Georgia
the laws of the State of Georgia
and the ordinances of the City of Thomaston.
and the ordinance of the City of Thomaston.
I do further swear or affirm that
I do further swear and affirm that,
as a police officer,
as a
I
police,
will faithfully serve and protect
I will faithfully serve and protect,
to the best of my ability
to the best of my ability,
all citizens,
all citizens,
regardless of race, color, or creed,
race, color, or creed,
and perform my duties and obligations
perform my duties and obligations
as a police officer
as a police officer
in an honorable,
in honorable,
civil, and benevolent manner.
civil, and benevolent manner.
I accept and adhere to the law enforcement code of ethics
I accept and adhere to the law, code of ethics,
adopted by the Thomaston Police Department as my standard of conduct
as my standard of conduct
while on and off duty,
while on,
and swear to faithfully abide
and swear to faithfully abide
by and defend the same.
by and defend the same.
God.
So help me God.
Yeah.
Thank y'all. Fist bump, help y'all. The second way to do it. Thank y'all for serving for us. We appreciate y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on the city attorney's report.
Okay, we can discuss at this point, one, property matter in executive session.
City clerk's report.
Only thing I have is the Constitution Board is hosting the Arbor Day ceremony next week on the 14th. Generation Park, special invitation.
130th Great Generation Memorial Park at Blue Star Marker next Wednesday. So possible contend. Next item, city engineer here today.
Good evening. Just going to take a moment to give you a quick update. We've been talking for several years about all the work that was coming, all the construction that was forthcoming, and it seems like everything is right here at the same moment. So we did get full approval on the two USDA projects, which is a long federal, so all the red tape cut through. But we should get full approval to go to bid in the next week, 2 weeks. They've already done one review, and we just addressed a few comments. And so moving along, this is going to upsize the Town Branch pipelines, the big sewer that runs downtown Branch, and then that will take both of the plants for the highest priority items. In addition, the T-Splost we're going to talk about tonight with all of you. We did this year's round of T-Splost, and the bids came in below budget. That's that a little bit later. CDBG, that project where we're using T-Splost to pave over the roads that we go in and cut and install. New sewer project should start construction here in a couple of weeks. So there's a lot of other work going, but I just want to give you a quick update on a few of these projects. I know we've been talking about for a long time, finally going to break ground. Any questions?
Thank you. All right, next we move to the city manager report.
The first item for consideration is the approval and acceptance of a Scotted to us by WL Studio Concept. This is for.
Side door or something.
This is for.
Yeah. Will be recorded once they're there.
Can y'all,
Yeah.
can you hear us now? Hello?
I'm unmuted.
Yeah, I can hear you now. I'm gonna work on the rest.
Start my video. Okay. You've got the full.
Can you mute me?
Go ahead. Yep, okay.
The first item for council's consider concept that has been submitted by WLA Studio. This is for the Greatest Generation Memorial. We went through procurement for professional services. WLA Studio was selected. They go to work to provide back concept for the design of the memorial. And the cost for that scope is $1,200 even with an estimated miscellaneous expenditure for a total of $13,690. Staff's recommendation is to authorize the execution of this scope of work so that we can get them started. And just as a reminder to the City Council, this project is being funded out of the Community Enterprise Fund, which was monies given to the city community enterprises for a mutually agreed upon project. Staff's recommendation is to authorize execution.
You've heard that recommendation. Anyone like to put that in form of a motion?
Put it in form of motion that we authorize the scope of work.
Do I hear a second? I second. Second, any discussion? Hearing none, call for a vote.
Councilman Middlebrooks?
Yes.
Councilman Reeves?
Yes.
All right.
Councilman Tucker?
Yes.
Councilman
Yes.
Mayor, switching gears back to the National Register presentation.
I'll try it, Russell. Can anyone hear us? Anybody hear us? Anybody hear us? Hello? I can see them and I can hear them, but they can't hear us.
We can't hear y'all.
Can we text them and just ask them to make the
We're asking if we can hear them.
Who's giving the presentations? Hello? Okay, we can, all right. Olivia, I'm gonna unmute you. I'm gonna mute everyone else. Unmute Olivia. Okay. I can't see the up here. I'm going to disconnect here, okay, Olivia? So we can hear you. If I motion and we can hear you, you can go ahead.
Need to pause.
Well, if I could ever hear her. I had it earlier.
Because I haven't seen him listen. Oh, Libby, I think you're waiting. Okay. Hi, everybody. I will try to talk fast. I know you have a full agenda tonight. My name is Olivia Head, and I'm the National Register Specialist at the Georgia Historic, is a part of the Department of Community Affairs recently. I want to start off by thanking you for including me and all of our sponsors tonight. We love to educate people about the National Register. Many thanks to Russell Thompson and Dale Yeager for coordinating this inclusion and for letting us use this virtual platform. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about no, it's not. There we go. So the National Register is a nationwide program that is administered in each state by a state historic preservation office. In Georgia, that's our office, the Historic Preservation Division, or HPD, based at Knoll Mountain State Park, just southeast of Atlanta, but we operate statewide. There are different programs in addition to the National Register program, including planning and local assistance, incidence programs, education and technical assistance, and the Certified Local Government program. They maintain a website that is related with useful preservation relation, and I'm not sure if Russell sent y'all the handouts that I had sent him, but it's not there on our website. There's the National Register fact sheet, a difference between the National Register and local historic district fact sheets. And you should have gotten also a National Register summary and boundary map for the Silvertown Historic District. In Georgia, properties are listed in the National Register through HPD from the public, not from our staff. We try to have very user-friendly program that encourages nominations from the public, and we provide guidance and assistance. The nominations we receive come from local interests, and our role is to facilitate the process and help complete the paperwork of register standards. In the case of the Silvertown Historic District, the nomination was prepared by Chris Jackson at WLA Studio and sponsored by local organizations including the Austin Upson Landmark Legacy, the Silvertown Historic Preservation Project, the West Village Association, and the Upson Historical. Thank you to all of them for all the hard work they've done. We realize that there are a lot of myths about the National Register, things like required public access, regulation on private property, public acquisition, and even dressing up and turning your house into a museum. But hopefully today, and clarify what the National Register does and does not do. So the National Register, which is maintained by the National Park Service and the Department of the Interior. The United States Congress passed the National Historic Preservation Act, which President Johnson signed into law April 15th of that year. This act established many of our country's public historic preservation programs, including the National Register. The National Historic Preservation Act and the ensuing preservation programs were established as a response to large-scale infrastructure projects such as the interstate highway system and so-called urban renewal projects in the 1950s and 1960s, which resulted in the neighborhoods throughout the country and where in many cases the federal government has disregarded the local community's interest in their historic resources. The Register of Historic Places was created as our nation's official list of historic places considered worthy of preservation, and it's an honorary recognition program that has the same standard. It is also a way that we document Georgia's history through its built environment. Nations form an important archive of America's historic built environment for written descriptions, history, and photographs. So what makes a property eligible for the National Register? In order to be listed, a property or district must meet 3 major tests. First, a property must usually be 50 years, but this is not a hard and fast rule. Second, a property in historic integrity, or it must basically look like it did during the historic period. And the property or district must meet one or more of these 4 criteria. The criteria are based on important themes in American history, for example, early settlement, transportation history, or community development, etc. However, it's important to understand that a property does not need to be eligible. Most listings in Georgia are stable, of statewide or local significance, and that includes Silvertown. The types of property that can be listed in the National Register are about as diverse as the variety of existing built resources. Individual buildings such as houses, these can be large and designed in a well or smaller and linear. Lots of commercial buildings, including stores and offices, can be listed, as well as schools and churches. Structures can also be listed in the National Register, and those include bridges, canals and dams, historic rail lines, and bandstands. Sites can be listed as well, and that includes things like battlefields, cemeteries, archaeological sites, and golf courses, which includes sculptures, fountains, funerary monuments, and even steam locomotives. In addition to individual resources, and the reason we're really here to talk about tonight is historic districts, concentrated groupings of buildings, structures, sites, and objects, so all 4 of those property types that are related historically and are listed as a group. Georgia is a residential neighborhood, like the Thomaston Street Historic District in the neighboring Lamar County. There are also downtown commercial historic districts, and many towns consist of both residential and commercial areas and a variety of property types. In Georgia, we encourage the listing of historic districts when possible because more properties and property owners can benefit from the lingo. All properties listed as contributing to a National Register district receive the same recognition and benefits as if they were individually listed. So we know that all places change, and it's important to understand that the National Register accounts for this change. In the case of historic districts, just because an area includes new construction or alters does not mean they would not qualify for National Register listing. New construction or altered resource district are classified as non-contributing resources. So they're within the boundary, but given the status to clarify that they lack the age or integrity to contribute to the district's significance. So now we'll discuss what the National Register does not do and how it helps preserve America's historic resources. We discussed how it results in an archive of America's built environment, and also that it provides for a national standard for analyzing historic resources. It also helps preserve historic properties by recognizing their significance, so in a way it gives anyone interested in their preservation a leg to stand on. By making information public, National Register listing helps ensure that these historic properties are taken into account for funded, licensed, or permitted projects, referred to as Section 106 in the National Historic Preservation Act. If the Georgia Department of Transportation wants to widen the road, they must take into account the effect the road widening will have on historic resources. That results in some concessions to local concerns. So what does the National Register not do? That National Register listing does not place any obligations or restrictions on the use of private property. It does not lead to public acquisition or require public access access. Listing results in absolutely no treatment, use, or transfer of public property. Private property. And because that's one of the biggest misconceptions about the National Register that bears repeating, National Register obligations or restrictions on the use of private property. It's also important to note that National Register historic districts are different than local historic districts or designation. And listing in the National Register does not automatically invoke a local designation. Local designations are zoning and building codes and are established by local governments and residents of the community. It's local listing that can put restrictions on a property, and local listing involve many more legal steps in the register process. Additionally, the boundaries are often different between local and National Register historic districts. The great thing about the National Register is that it does offer a number of benefits which people are often aware of. Of course, we are to provide recognition, but did you know that National Register lists tourism? And National Register listing has been shown to stabilize property values and incentivize good property ownership. But the number one benefit of owning property in a historic district listed in the National Register is tax incentives. Owners of National Register listed residential properties in Georgia may qualify for state tax credits and preferential tax assessments and undertaking major rehabilitation work. Owners of income-producing properties may be eligible for both federal and state tax incentives for their rehabilitation work. Some handouts have been submitted something on the specifics of each of the tax incentives programs in our office. And you can also find our website. Because you're receiving a financial benefit through the avenue, you do have to follow preservation standards if you choose to use these incentives. These programs are optional, but they are a great financial incentive and are listed in the National Register to take advantage of them. If you would like to find out more, contact Molly McLam, who is the tax incentives program manager in our office. So now we'll go over a few things briefly about the National Register listing process. The first of these is owner approval. First, owner approval is required. For a historic district, according to federal regulations, the district cannot be listed if the majority of the property owners object to the listing via a certified letter. And next, a little bit about the process for listing anything in the National Register against the someone or an organization that takes on the responsibility of nominating a property. Nomination is researched and written and is sent along with photographs, maps, and other supporting documentation. Some nomination sponsors highlight us that this is not necessary or required. Our National Register staff will review the information and usually replies back with questions, suggestions, or comments depending on what additional information is needed. After our National Register staff has determined that a district or property and is documented to, or meets the National Register criteria and is documented to national standards, then the nomination is scheduled for our Georgia National Register Review Board. The board of appointed preservation professionals meets 2 times to review nominations. Once approved by the Georgia National Register Review Board, the final nomination form is completed by our staff and forwarded. And the next review board meeting is what we're here to talk about, but it is November 6th, and we will be hosting it virtually. We'll put the Silvertown Historic District nomination up before the review board. So if anyone wants to attend, you are welcome, and you can contact me for details. Receives the nomination, the keeper of the National Register has final approval, and then the property is officially listed. In Georgia, there are presently over 20 2,100 listings in the National Register, and there are also numerous nominations currently in progress. Statewide, there are over 80,000 properties in the National Register. So this map shows the proposed boundary for the Silvertown Historic District. Boundaries for this district are generally based on plans created in 1929. The buildings that were constructed prior to 1958, when the city of Thomaston annexed and haven't changed too much, will be considered contributing to the district. And the Silvertown Historic District is being nominated for its significance under criteria A, B, and C, and the areas of industry, community planning and development, landscape architecture, as a good and intact industrial town, typically found in Georgia, and representative of the work of architect and Robert Company, landscape architect and planner Earl Senator, businessman Robert Edgar Hightower Sr. What's next will be up to you. National Register listing can generate increased pride and can encourage neighborhood investment. Information of the availability of tax incentives can spur. Some communities choose to pursue local designation. Create options, and it will be up to you and your community to engage and decide how to learn more about the National Register process and recent nominations. You can go over to our website and also sign up for our monthly e-newsletter, reservation code. Find us online through social media and on license plates throughout the states. Thank you for letting me speak tonight. I will unshare my screen.
Can they take questions?
Olivia, can you hear us? They can't hear us. So. Other than I can type on it. I can chat.
Can't hear Lonnie.
You want me to put her on speakerphone?
Wait, Olivia?
Yeah, you can try that. Yeah,
You got her number?
yeah, call her.
The only time I heard him was on the phone, and so I'm thinking that's his only way to communicate with us.
Russell's calling the questions.
Okay.
We may have to call answers.
And we can hear her.
Here.
Alright.
Oh,
Can you hear us?
Oh.
he is calling.
Olivia, can you hear us?
Yes.
All right, I'm gonna, if council has any questions,
Carol.
just ask y'all to speak.
Feedback.
Too much feedback?
I think I got it. Go ahead.
Yes.
All right, go ahead, Doug.
Olivia, I think you've already addressed this in your presentation. I know from private property owners, I know that there's some restrictions that might put on a private property owner for making changes in their housing, and I think that's a common fault that runs through when something gets put on it. But it seems in your presentation earlier, you talked about that, and I think cleared it up that it does not prevent
Yeah, it's not working.
I didn't hear the end of the question.
Russell, you
Okay.
I think I'll just email you any type of correspondence or questions that we might have, and if that'd be great.
Okay.
So if council has any particular questions about the National Register designation, and the reason this came up, we received a letter comment, I think we have until November the 4th. This being relatively new, being a part of the sponsorship for this nomination, I figure you'd get that particular question revolving around the designation for if you'll submit, come by and talk about it, I'll try to get whatever answer I can if I don't already know.
Russell, let me just ask you, it looks like they're gonna reach out to the public that lives there or that owns property there.
I believe that everybody received a letter. Did you get a letter? You didn't get a letter? I think they get a letter, but I'll verify.
And there'll be a vote to make sure that the
I
majority.
think there's a vote. I think that you can choose not to, but a non-reply is an acquiesce approval.
Says something about a certified letter or something.
I'll put a packet together and I'll get you the details. All right, the next item for council's consideration is the approval of authorization of a resolution to us for multifamily housing revenue bond by the Thomaston Housing Authority. Purpose of the bond is a $20 million bond. The Fairview Apartments here in Thomaston is going to be the beneficiary. There's a company named LEDIC Realty Management LLC that is looking to acquire and rehab Fairview Apartments. In addition, part of the bond is going to be used out of county. Dan's talking to the bond council. This seems to be a standard transaction or issuance, nothing out of the ordinary and more than that. But there's no liability to either the city of Thomaston or to the Thomaston Housing Authority. A statutory requirement that the House governing entity authorize a resolution of agreement prior to the issuance of the bond. Correct?
That is correct.
Ability to the city or to the Thomaston Housing Authority in expectation that we're going to see a path. Staff's recommendation would be to authorize the mayor to execute a resolution. Dan, do you have anything you want to add?
I do have a little bit to add. Russell, I did talk to Jim Monticello, bond counsel that we use, and went over this with him, and that is exactly what he told me. It's very routine, and it requires that the highest legislative body not to it, and so that's why they're asking us to adopt this resolution. Additionally, I talked to Mr. Duggan, who is the attorney developer, or who's involved with this bond issue, and he also confirmed that the city is obligated in any way, shape, or form, nor is the housing authority. This housing authority here is used as a conduit, kind of like we did through ABA to obtain. He said that the housing authority here is actually going to, they'll get about $10,000 to $15,000 at closing, and then each bond is outstanding. They will also get an 1/8 of 1% per year. So we've been going through our housing community is the way it was presented to me. So again, the city is not financially obligated, nor is housing authority obligated.
And Russell, this is a Section 8 housing. It's like, it's not a new designation of new Section 8. This is already Section 8.
This is a current entity, Fairview, acquired by this leading realty group, and is part of the buyer and rehab property. So my understanding is no new construction, no new designation, just acquisition and rehab.
They, and they're going to guarantee the bond as well. And then from what Mr. Duggan sent to me is that they're going to put in about, they think about $55,000 in each house to rehab it.
So it seems like we don't have to or anything like that. So it looks like it's going to make it better.
Do they have a time frame when that would fix over there?
I do not.
They're actually doing,
Based on staff's recommendation, I'm making a motion to approve.
And I'll second that.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, call for a vote.
Councilmember Middlebrooks,
Yes.
Councilmember Greathouse,
All right.
Councilmember Tucker,
Yes.
Councilmember.
The next item for council's consideration is approval to an authorization to amend the personnel policy of Article 14, subsection C. This is the section of the city governs take-home vehicles, sets the parameters therefore. In this specific request, vehicles is part of our take-home fleet for the police department. Current policy that we have sets a 35 miles from the city of Thompson. The police chief has requested to raise him an additional 15 miles for dual. There are a couple of officers that we do allow to drive 35 miles to place to store the car at a fire station or another public venue to keep it within a 35-mile radius. It would allow us them to continue to drive that. Also, from a retention and attraction standpoint, I think I wrote in your narrative, there's some figures based on current practices and anything we can anticipate with our new recruits, fuel cost, etc. The end cost wasn't going to be but about $3,500 a year. It seemed relatively minor. I don't think there's much more liability in terms of 15 miles over 35. So I told the chief operation and authorization, and based on the minimal liabilities and minimal cost increase, staff's recommendation. Chief, do you have anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, the only thing I would add is, as far as recruitment and competitive advantage that we can have, most of the agencies around us offer a 35-mile radius. This is one little thing that's insignificant for its cost that we could offer that gives us a little bit of agencies with having that big radius. I know there's some agencies just north of us, pick up some Metro Atlanta certified officers that are trying to leave Fulton County. So, maybe that would put us in that market if any of them are, but it would also benefit a couple of the officers that we currently have and maybe help. We calculated all that out, and that's what we requested. And that's the main reason why, to give us a little bit of a competitive edge.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any
So let me ask you a question. Are we looking at going from 35 to 50 miles? That's what we do?
45.
45.
Is that the best? I mean, would 50 be better, or how many? I don't know. It's just.
Well, the calculations and figures that I gave Russell were based on a 45-mile. It would be great.
I mean, I'm just trying to think.
45 is
what cities would it hit?
Yeah.
Hit somebody living in Macon.
Well, I can tell you that we currently have 3 officers that are outside the 35, but the 45 would encompass them. So it would be, and they're greatly anticipating this change or hoping that it would pass. So that's going to help with them. 50 would be fantastic to offer that. It would reach. But the request and the numbers we gave was based on a 45 mile. Now, I don't, that would be.
I'll amend my motion to 50.
50. We have a motion and a second for a motion to, for 50. Any further discussion? Fine with it, okay. No further discussion, call for a vote.
Councilmember Middlebrooks,
Yes.
Councilmember Lee,
Yes.
Councilmember Greathouse,
All right. Yes.
Councilmember Hill.
Yes.
Next item for council's consideration is the approval of award of the 2020 T-Splosh paving improvements contract. You should have attached with your packet copy of the engineer's recommendation of the board. Also, a subsequent like this, I'm going to let the city engineer, after I go through my spiel, kind of explain. But the recommendation from staff and for council's benefit is to award the construction by McElroy in the amount of $987,642.50. And just for council's information, we did receive 4 bids. You have a copy of that tabulation. And then Trey is going to walk you through the process and what this means and where we are with the payment.
So we took our latest pricing and the average few low bids to try to project how all of the projects all as far as paving in the future. Russell and I were discussing that, we know we can count on around $1.1 million a year. And so what we've got here is we bid the project. If you see the FY 2020 in blue over in the left column, you'll follow, there's our bid amount. So everything above that is projects that we had in the original bid package. You'll see that the next road, as we go beyond 9.987 million, trying to get to this $1.1 million number that we have, it would add 4th Avenue Southwest. And then as you go beyond that, you'll see fiscal year 21 projects. And this is going strictly by this year's allocation of capital. So you each had 15 points to assign. We did that for this year. We're not locking in any of this for the following year. But going down the list for future, we just wanted to give you a glimpse of what it might cost. So I've included a length in miles. If you follow the columns, I've got the score that everyone agreed upon. And then as I look down the total cost, I've got the cost, projected cost and then I've got a running total that just gives you by the time you get to the bottom, a projected $5.4 million of total dollars spent specific to paving. We also have a strategy that Russell formulated where we would spend $100,000 a year of T-SPLOST money on sidewalk improvements. So we actually use 4 sidewalks where we've gone out and ranked all the sidewalks in the city, and that will be for another day. Is that clear? Or there is also, as you go below 74 on the overall score, you'll see 3rd, 4th Avenue N and East Thompson Streets are all in our CDBG area. The expanded back because of lack of money and where we would hit on the next phase of CDBG actually extends up into Councilmember Middlebrook's 3 or 4 more roads. And Russell and I are trying to discuss when we'll try to get that CDBG. And that's also not pictured here. Those score differently for us to pave those, which is a sewer replacement.
So staff's recommendation is to authorize the award of quality construction on McElroy in the amount of $942.50. What we will then do is there's about a $200,000 gap from what the actual bid came in at. We will award the contract and then change order in the other work, correct?
Gap meaning we have more money than what the price came in at, so we're under budget on
this. Everything that you see here in blue, that FY 2020, that was actually in the project bid. So if council wants to deviate from the list, if you want to stick, we can bring that up at the next meeting. But there's about $2,000 that we're under budget on our bid that we have to play with. So, for tonight's purpose, staff's recommendation.
your recommendation in the form of a motion. Your motion to hear a second.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Just the extra money we figure out.
I would say no later than, probably the next meeting. If council has some consideration, you kind of have this now, take it home, see where things line out.
Okay, we can also do more side,
Do the sidewalks, you can do roads, whatever you.
just think about that for next time. Any further discussion on that? Hearing none, call for a vote.
Councilmember Reed,
Yes.
Councilmember Greathouse,
Aye.
Councilmember Tucker,
Yes.
Councilmember Hill.
Yes.
The next operation is the approval and award of a fire station construction contract. You should have a copy of the recommendation from the architect. There were 17 bidders for the project. I have bid amount wrong on there.
My mom is here.
Yeah.
For the amount. 2.25.
Yeah, so the total contract amount was $285,075. And that is to McWright LLC out of Bond Air. We have worked with the low bidder, where we have talked with the apparent low bidder about some value engineering opportunities, and we think we can get this shaved down about another $80,000 or $90,000, and there is some consideration to adding a fifth bay that we may work in. So staff's recommendation that we award to the low bidder in the amount of $2.285 prior to the execution of contract, that if there are any modifications or concurrent change orders at that time. Yes,
How
sir.
many bays?
4 as designed. And what you have rendering what the fire station will look like, it shows.
There's 5 on this one and 4 on this one.
Well, there's 4 in the bid. So there's 4, and I think we can bring it back to you at a cost. This is probably going to be cheap real estate once we look at all engineering. They have some rough numbers. They've talked to the contractor, but I did not have it polished enough tonight to make it in the form of a recommendation. So my recommendation is going to be but prior to the execution of any contract, we might do a concurrent change order. But we'll bring that back before council for your blessing before we do that. Do you have anything you wanted to add?
No, sir.
Further motion.
I make a motion.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, call for a vote.
Councilmember Woodward,
Yes.
Councilmember Reed,
Yes.
Councilmember Greathouse,
Aye.
Councilmember Tucker,
Yes.
Councilmember Hill.
Yeah.
Dave, breaking ground.
Take track time there. Any other questions? The next item for council's consideration is authorization to execute a license agreement for an abatement. This is specific to the 325 property. The city holds a bond that has been in default, or on the demo of the 325, it's a $150,000 bond. We've discussed before, what we're going to do with the property. My understanding is that the financial company has the foreclosure process. They're telling me that process should be completed by early November. But I talked to the attorney who represents the said that he did not mind issuing us whereby we could enter the property to utilize the bond money that we have for remediation of the debris that's out there. However, I have not received a copy of the license agreement. The city attorney's tried to reach out to him, but we have not. So the authorization that I'm looking for the council is that if they provide us with a lease agreement that will own to the property, is council okay pending legal and utilize the bond money that we're holding in escrow to go and abate the nuisance?
Go ahead, Don.
Who owns the property now?
That's a good question.
That's gonna be
My understanding, and Deanne's going to have clarification from the finance company. It was my understanding that he's given a deed in lieu of to the finance company, but to clear up the liens on the property, finance company is running it through foreclosure, started the public notice piece, and that's supposed to turn early November.
Isn't there a risk if we go ahead and do that before, you know, all this, that we're, I mean, that money could be spent for naught, and with it, we're spending money clearing up a nuisance on a property that the city doesn't own.
Well, I think the intent of the money is to abate the nuisance, irregardless of ownership. Now, if we're talking about a real estate council prefers to wait, we can. My only concern is that we're holding this sole purpose is for remediation of debris, and how long can we hold that bond in good effect, use it for its intended purpose?
Russell, do we feel like in the bond is adequate?
No,
Yeah, so we're going to do what we can?
that is my intention.
How much will we do for $150,000?
Order, maybe.
I mean, I guess the question being, that comes to my mind, will we do this under another, and clean up? What, I guess, what's the recourse? We spend the money, we clean it up, and then nothing happens.
The recourse would be, you get it partially cleaned. If they're still in violation, we have to go through another abatement issue where we cite the owner, get them to court, get an order, the whole 9 yards.
I mean, I guess we could file, if lien's the right word, but we go through that process and to recoup some of our money. I know we'd probably be standing in line. What's to say that if we did file something on the property that when they wash it through in foreclosure, wash that out or not?
My understanding is that in Georgia, our statute, and the state statute, and our lien would be enforceable and would take priority.
Will we be using city equipment?
You know, that was a thought, Mr. Greathouse, but I don't have the staff nor the dump trucks nor the excavators. We're probably looking at, you know, this is a bid type situation. Once, if council agrees and there was some agreement to go on with the property, we would have to indemnification and find a contractor who was willing to do that. My only, like I said, is the only thing that $150,000 can be used for is the abatement. Whether we own it, whether somebody else owns it, I can't hold it in perpetuity.
So we're treating this as just like a smaller scale opportunity where we would go on the property, clean it up, and then we would settle up. Do whatever means we had to with the owner.
At this point, you either need to give the contractors or we need to abate the nuisance. I think. Dan, you have anything on that?
Just that, you know, so you've got to be used for that property, and if you don't, I mean, that's it. I don't know if everybody remembers how we came to that bond money, but it was for the purpose of, given for the purpose of cleaning up that property, and then it can be cleaned up. That's the way that it is now, so. In touch with John Russell, I've left a message. I did want to talk to him a little bit. City manager may have wanted to bring this to your attention, have some conversation about it. way, shape, or form on this issue.
Russell, it sounds like we can do what we can do, or either we let the money go, so use it while we have a chance.
Or we can use that 150 to spend it toward the payment of that. Or give,
Is,
to get the quarter of it done.
Whoever's pocket.
Now, I believe Joel has looked into this before he left, and he and city manager talked about that they may foreclose on it, which is the route they've decided to go. And I don't know how long y'all have talked about this, but it's been a while. Russell and I discussed and different routes that city council could go, but involved in this issue before I came on. His, I believe advice to Russell would have been the best way to go foreclosure, so we were kind of happy to see that.
It's based on your legal review and consultation with Russell. I make a motion predicated on, clearing all those hurdles.
there's no understandable potential, like, is there?
All that's gonna be specified in the
Yeah.
license agreement, and we're not gonna execute anything until Deanne's happy in the city's code.
Yeah, I guess that was.
Yeah, okay. And so I'll second.
We got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, call for a vote.
Councilman Little, Councilman Reed,
Yes.
Councilman Brighthouse,
All right.
Councilman Coucil,
Yes.
Councilman Reed.
Yes.
The next item for the approval of the Electric Cities of Georgia year-end settlement authorization for the contract payment reimbursement. This year-end settlement is $575.85. Council has the opportunity to designate this fund or to receive it in the form of a reimbursement. Staff recommendation is that the city request this be reimbursed to the city via check in the amount of $11,575.80.
Just go on the gym, where does that go? The general fund?
Your recommendation, your motion, second,
Second.
discussion. Hearing none, call for a vote.
Councilman Middlebrooks,
Yes.
Councilman Reed,
Yes.
Councilman Brighthouse,
All right.
Yes.
Councilman Reed.
Yeah.
The next item for council's consideration is appointment to the Thomaston Tree Board. Gail, did you say that we had someone interested?
Dunaway is volunteered to serve on this subcommittee.
Recommendation from Ms. Kay Dunaway to serve. Hear that? Motion for that. We have a motion, do I hear a second? Any discussion? Hearing none, call for that vote.
Councilman Middlebrooks,
Yes.
Councilman Reed, Councilman Coucil,
Yes.
Councilman Reed.
Yes.
The next item for council's consideration, discussion, potential action regarding zoning for moratorium with gas stations / convenience stores. I've received several complaints, have seen some permitting with convenience stores popping open, which would be apparent that one of the intents would be for gaming machines, I believe. In reviewing our ordinance, we do have one. However, there are more stringent regulations and requirements that the state will want. So I was asked to, consider this for council's discussion if you would entertain some sort with regards to convenience stores, gas stations, until such time the staff has the opportunity to review all of our setback requirements, permitting requirements, and any other zoning requirements where more stringent or lenient regulation would be more city business. So,
Have it been permitted lately?
I do. I think we have, it's either 17 or 19 in the city now. I know there's a few popping up in the county. Talking to the county manager, he's very interested in pursuing any type of direction that the city may as well. So this is a discussion topic for city council. What do you think? What do you see? What is your intent? Would you like staff to review? I will say that you could use some tightening up pertaining to gaming machines. But I'll turn it over to council for your discussion.
Moratorium's usually like, what, 6 months?
6 months, and I think you can extend it.
Another 6 months.
The law just says reasonable time. It doesn't necessarily specifically say 6 months. I think that was what we had talked about. So,
I think in the city there have been some that have been, some of the convenience stores because they were doing things they should not have been doing, and they had taken they should dealing with the lottery and the tickets and that kind of thing.
Lottery commission
Yeah,
regulates that now.
there are provisions that are allowable. It would allow us greater audit ability of these businesses, where they would have to register with the city statements, and then if we want to do an internal audit and compare payout to what they were receiving, authorize us to do that, which would, hopefully help.
And Russell, I will say that I've received phone calls expressing concern over that, we already have a number of convenience stores, it's picking up. So I think it's worthwhile for us to spend some more time learning what's going on.
That's who have gotten several calls and agree with Doug on that.
Some of the same kind. Put this in the form of creative moratorium.
If it pleases the mayor, I would ask that council authorize the city attorney to be clear in some specific definitions of how we define the actual business, that we're probably not prepared to do so, to not search and draft that, and hopefully we can have that presented at the next city council meeting.
Also give probably some more comments from both sides. Somebody, I encourage you to get in touch with the council members, so we'll know more of their citizens' opinion. We need a motion around that, or just
I don't know that we need a motion.
need a motion for that, just as a.
I think what I should just draft up a proposed moratorium. Is that what we're thinking? We can kind of flesh it out at the next meeting.
That's all I have, Mayor, other than brief, is it real estate matter,
Yes.
executive session, and one personnel matter.
Is there anyone on council have any other business they'd like to hear?
Yes, I would ask if council, mayor, council, we talked about furniture all week, and we have money in the budget because of some of the trips the council members didn't take the GM to Savannah.
Right.
So I was wondering if we could allow the city manager to bring us back some costs as it relates to having some furniture in the association. That's it.
Is that same, can you bring that back to us? So that-
I mean, would that be obviously budget time? And, I mean, is that something that we, obviously, is it, or are you talking about wanting to do something?
No, this year's
This year's budget, I see.
Do we say, so we may have to move stuff around, but
Amendment, but just money that reallocation within the current budget.
It would be a reallocation via budget, but it would be money that was already
Yeah,
appropriate.
right, category, yeah.
Ms. Reed, when you say furniture, what?
In the break room area, yes. Yeah, no, in the break room area, that I know. I don't know if there's a city manager.
I'm good, but there's a couple of staff members who need chairs.
Okay, yeah.
Good idea.
if there's nothing else, I need a motion to go into executive session for real estate and personnel matter.
Second.
Any discussion? Call for a vote?
Councilman Middleton?
Yes.
Yes.
Councilman Wade?
All right.
Councilman Thomas?
Yes.
Councilman Hood?
Yeah, but you don't-
sure.